So someone asked me to do a video on departure training for dogs that we work with separation related issues. Departure training is the training where you essentially teach your dog to be home alone, and you do it gradually and safely so the dog feels comfortable, the dog tolerates being home alone. Your dog might never be happy about being home alone or excited about being home alone, but if we can get them to a point where they tolerate it, they feel okay, they feel safe at least. For departure training, what I do is basically what we would call exposure therapy for humans. So we gradually and systematically desensitize our dogs to be home alone. It's easiest if you have a dog that doesn't have any bad experiences with being home alone, like they haven't been left for a long time, for example. But that said, you can still do it with dogs that have had bad experiences already. So what you want to do is you want to start really slowly. And if you've worked on door as a bore, which there is a previous video about here on my YouTube channel, but if you worked with door as a bore and you've gotten to a stage where you can step outside for 5 seconds and your dog doesn't seem to be anxious, they seem to be calm and okay with it, then you start building up gradually. And what we say normally, if a dog is anxious or worried, I would start really slowly. So no more than a 10 to 20% increase in departure duration. So that would be from 5 seconds. That would only be to 6 seconds, for example. And then you can gradually build up. Now, if your dog doesn't have any bad experiences, or there may be a puppy that just has to learn to be home alone, you can chunk it up a little bit more. So you can try maybe increasing in 20-second increments. Always monitor your dog for signs of anxiety or outright fear. If you have a dog that's barking, trying to destroy things, trying to get out through the doors or windows, urinating, defecating, pacing, whining, things that are really clear signs of anxiety or frustration, that's quite obvious. But if you might have a dog that shows more subtle signs. They could be things like lip licking, fast lip licking, or panting faster than usual, or you can see the whites of their eyes, or they're yawning a lot, or they're scratching a lot. So the signs are a lot more subtle than what you would consider fear or anxiety. I will add the signs in the caption in this under this video. Anyway, so you want to monitor your dog. You want to make sure that they don't show any signs of anxiety, and you want to come back in before they do. So if your dog starts barking, you should have gone in before, because normally dogs will show other signs before they get to the point where they will bark. That's it. There are some dogs that are quite quick on the trigger, so they will bark or jump around or howl or try to scratch the door and things like that, and you won't see the subtle signs first. When you do this kind of training with your dog, you have to get to know your dog. You have to get to know your dog's body language. And I have recommendation of a book called, I don't have it right here, unfortunately, Doggy Language by Lily Chin, which is a really good book. I will write it down in the caption as well. It's a really good book with drawings of what those different signs and body language, what that can look like. So have a look at that and get to know your dog's body language. All dogs are individuals, so it's not everything that necessarily means exactly the same in each dog, which is why you have to become the expert in your own dog's body language. Right, so also, I don't use food for departure training, and I don't use food for departure training because I want my dog to be able to feel safe home alone without having to be left with a Kong or a licky mat or long-lasting chew or anything like that. And that's because if we leave our dogs with something to take their attention away from what we're doing, what happens when the food runs out? Will they then become anxious? Will they then start barking, howling, trying to destroy the door to get out? They have to learn that it's safe to be alone without necessarily having food to distract them from what we're doing. So it's a distraction. That said, when your dog has learned to be home alone, and you're no longer worried about whether you're distracting them or not, you can throw a handful of treats for them when you leave in the morning if you go to work. It's absolutely fine. It's just that when you're doing the training itself, in that process, I'd rather not use food because I don't want to distract my dog. I want my dog to learn that it's safe to be alone. Okay, so what else can we talk about? Some people ask if I have a dog with separation anxiety, does it help if I get another dog? And it may not, and it may. It really depends on your dog. Some dogs are hyper attached to people, and some dogs just don't like being alone. And some dogs need a human to be with them, and some dogs just need another dog's company. So for me, there's no definitive answer to that because it really depends on your dog, and it really depends on what this dog is feeling emotionally. Is your dog hyper attached to you? Then you want to work on that before you start the departure training, and that's a different story. But essentially, building independence, building confidence, which is something you can do through problem-solving exercises and things like Freework and trick training, things where your dog gets easy wins. And speaking of easy wins, when you're doing the training, so let's say that you are at a departure duration of maybe 10 minutes, things are going well. Your dog can be home alone for 10 minutes. Some schools say continue to progress and go up, 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 increase the durations. And some schools say to give your dogs easy wins. So, for example, you've done 10 minutes, then the next day you might just do 5 minutes just to make it easier for your dog. When it's easier for your dog, it's an easy win, and it helps build their confidence. So I kind of like that idea, and I do that with my own dog. So just to sum up, gradual exposure to that which your dog is afraid of. And that's not just for separation anxiety or home alone training. This is for other things as well. Tiny increments if your dog is really fearful or anxious or afraid of being alone, or frustrated for that matter. It's the same sort of treatment. But if your dog is frustrated, you might also want to consider if all of their dog needs are met. Are they getting enough sensory stimulation? Are they getting enough physical activity and exercise? Are they getting enough environmental enrichment? Do you have a dog that really needs to get out for at least an hour every day, or maybe 2 hours, and you're only giving them 20-minute walks? And that 20-minute walk is a quick jog around the block, and they don't get to sniff or explore or anything like that, then you will have problems leaving them alone. And it's not necessarily because they're afraid of being alone, but it could be just that their needs aren't met. So always consider that. Consider whether your dog's needs are met first, then you can start worrying about the training. So we also work based on a little acronym that we call SAFE. So SAFE is, the S is your dog should be sleepy but not sleeping, and that goes for puppies and adult dogs. If your dog's needs are met, they're generally tired or relaxed, which is really good when you leave them alone. And A for all played out. Again, both puppies and adult dogs need playtime, entertainment, enrichment. If they've had that, their needs have been met, it's a lot easier to leave them home alone. F for full tummy. So if they're hungry or thirsty, then again, they won't like to be left home alone. So also take that into consideration. And E for empty bladder. Of course, they have to have been able to go to the toilet before they are left home alone. And if you have a dog that can't hold it all day, if you're away full-time for full-time work, then consider getting a dog walker in, or a dog sitter, or someone just to pop in and let your dog out in your garden or something like that. So they have that chance to empty their bladder, maybe refresh their water and play with them for 15 minutes, something like that, to entertain your dog, so that they don't have to be home alone for, say, an 8-hour workday. That's a really long time. Yeah, so I think that's it. Gradual exposure to that which they are afraid of, which is, you know, adding duration to your departure training, but very slowly, incrementally, tiny steps if need be. And monitor your dog for signs of anxiety or frustration. Make sure their needs are met in all ways, both the physical one and the mental ones. And just, you know, take it slow. Slow is actually faster in this kind of training. So hopefully that answers your questions. If you have any more questions, please feel free to comment under the video and I'll do my best to answer. Take care.